Concrete and clay tile roofs, they're dead. And here's why homeowners are replacing them with something different, something way smarter. And here's why this homeowner specifically decided to use something else. Tile roofs on a house look great, and homeowners tend to really like their tile roofs. But tile roofs also have a lot of problems. They can fail when they're exposed to harsh climates like we have here in Colorado. Over time, they can become brittle, they can break. Generally speaking, you have to be really careful when you walk on a tile roof, otherwise you can break them if you don't step in the right spot. Repairs can be really tricky because the tiles tend to go obsolete pretty fast. So finding replacement tiles to do your repair can be a challenge. And if you can't find the right colored tile to do your tile replacement, you can end up with different colored tiles spread all over your roof. Plus, repairs on a tile roof can end up being pretty expensive. In addition to that, the tiles themselves are pretty heavy. So you can't put a tile roof on just any old house. The structure of the roof has to be specifically designed to support the weight of the tile. So homeowners are replacing their concrete and clay tile roofs with something different, something better, in my opinion. It's something that keeps the same high-end look that you get with a real concrete or clay tile, but it doesn't have all the downsides of those concrete or clay tiles. Things like cracking and breaking and pieces falling off and the weight on the roof and not being able to walk on them. This homeowner chose to replace his concrete Spanish barrel tile roof with a synthetic product. It's a product called Brava. And I'm going to explain to you why he chose to go with a synthetic rather than go back on with a concrete tile roof, even though the concrete tile roof would have been less expensive. So one of the problems that I said before with a tile roof is the weight. Now this house actually had a concrete tile roof on it before, so it was engineered to withstand the weight. But the weight is the main factor of why you can't just go from like an asphalt shingle roof to a concrete tile roof. So the tiles that we took off of this roof weigh about 8 pounds, maybe a little bit more than 8 pounds each. That means that in every square, which is a 10-foot by 10-foot area on your roof, that roofing material weighs about 700 to 800 pounds. By comparison, a luxury premium asphalt shingle is going to weigh about 350 pounds per square. So the concrete tile is about twice as much. Now keep those numbers in mind because those are going to be important here in just a minute. Then another factor for this homeowner was the freeze and thaw cycles that we have, especially here in Colorado, but through really other regions of the country as well. Now the concrete and clay tiles, they tend to absorb water, and then on a cold night that freezes, or even a cold day that freezes. But then here in Colorado, our climate is so temperate and we have such warm sunny days even in the winter. Sun comes out and then they thaw, and then they freeze again at night, and then they thaw, and that causes the tiles to begin to weaken, and that's why we have such problem here with tiles being so brittle. Then when the tiles become brittle, they break when you walk on them, or sometimes they can even just crack and break on their own without any outside influence, I guess you could say. But why did this homeowner decide that he wanted to replace his roof in the first place? Well, his main problem was leaks. So he was getting leaks inside of his home, and the primary reason for that was not so much because of the concrete tile failing, but because water was getting underneath the concrete tile, and his underlayment was completely shot. The roof was about 30 years old, and they used just that black tar paper as the underlayment. And then it had wood battens nailed directly to the roof, and all those battens were just acting as water dams, backing up water and also backing up ice. The underlayment rotted out, and then he got a leak. Well, you could say, okay, so the tiles didn't fail, it was the underlayment. Yes, that's right. But the problem is that on every tile roof, water does get underneath them. It's not like an asphalt shingle that seals really well and keeps water from getting underneath them. Water virtually always gets underneath a tile roof. So your underlayment is really important. Well, because his underlayment had failed, he knew he was going to have to either take all of the shingles off, replace the underlayment, and then put all the shingles back on, or he could just replace the entire roof, which is what he chose to do. But why did this homeowner choose Brava, a synthetic Spanish barrel tile, instead of going back on with concrete? Well, he wanted to keep the look of the Spanish barrel tile, but he did some research and found out that there were other options, synthetic material options, and he thought that that would be a better choice for him, and here's why. One of the big reasons for this homeowner was the fact that the product itself is a recycled product and can be recycled. So instead of, in the future, if the roof ever does need to be replaced, we're not going to fill up the landfill with the material like we did taking off his concrete tile. He also really liked the fact that Brava has a 50-year transferable warranty. So in 50 years, whoever owns the house at that time, if there's a defect in the product, then Brava's warranty still covers it. Whereas other material manufacturers, their warranty, you get about 10 years, and if you have a new owner of the home after that period, it's not transferable. And remember how earlier I talked about the weight of the product, how the concrete tile that we took off of his house is 700 to 800 pounds per square? Brava weighs 281 pounds per square. So that's even less than a premium asphalt shingle would weigh. So if you wanted to replace your asphalt shingle roof with Brava, you can do that. And that 281 pounds per square is for the Spanish barrel tile. They also have a shake profile and a slate profile, and those weigh even less. They're much closer even just to a standard asphalt shingle. Want to replace your asphalt shingle roof with Brava? No problem. Homeowners, if you found out today that you needed to replace your concrete or clay tile roof, what would you do? Would you go back on with another concrete or clay tile? Or would you consider another option, a synthetic option like Brava? Leave a comment down below. Another reason, and one of my favorite reasons, is, in my opinion, it's the most natural looking of the synthetic products. It doesn't look fake. Plus, I really like the color patterns that they put into the tile. They take great care to make sure that the tiles are unique looking and it's not just flat or checkerboard looking like you'll see with some other products. Now, a lot of the synthetic products, their color is just a veneer on top of the actual plastic. So if they get scratched, you might be able to see the plastic underneath. So you might have a big white scratch on it. With Brava, the color goes all the way through the product. So if it gets scratched or cut or gouged, or when you have to cut a tile, you're not going to see just like that ugly white subsurface that you're going to see on so many other products. And with their UV warranty, the product isn't going to fade after a few years. It's still going to look great on your roof for years to come. And even though it's a lighter product, lighter than concrete tile, it's way, way more durable. And that was important for this homeowner, but it's also important for me as a roofer, especially the fact that we have to walk on this product. I've been on enough concrete tile roofs, and there's just a specific way that you have to walk on them. And one misstep and you can end up breaking a tile. I had one of my guys, his ladder slipped out. He had it up against the roof on another part of a concrete tile roof. It slipped, fell, and broke a bunch of tiles. So let me show you what dropping a concrete tile from a little over 3 feet onto asphalt looks like. We could do a comparison test with Brava, but let's do something a little more extreme. Okay, was that enough to convince you? If not, let's do something else, something more fun. Let's drive over it with my truck. So yes, Brava is way more durable, in my opinion, than a concrete tile roof ever can be. and it's got the industry's highest impact rating, which is a class 4. So that means that also if you have a Brava roof, you're going to get deep discounts from your insurance, some insurance companies. You're going to get deep discounts on your insurance premiums year after year after year. So they basically end up, your insurance company basically ends up paying you to put on a class 4 product like Brava. And remember how we talked about the freeze thaw cycle that you can experience with a concrete tile? You're not going to have that problem with Brava. Or, okay, so any synthetic product, probably not going to have that problem. Since it's synthetic, it's not going to absorb water. So it's not going to freeze at night and then thaw during the day and repeat that cycle over and over. So it's not going to end up getting more brittle because of that. So therefore, you're not going to end up with problems of it just cracking on its own or cracking from foot traffic. But what about the installation of Brava, you might be asking? Is it any different from a regular concrete tile? It's very similar. So probably any crew that is very familiar with installing concrete tile can install Brava also. But there's some differences that definitely need to be paid attention to. So if you're thinking about Brava, I would recommend that you contact Brava and ask them for a certified installer in your area. Also, since the product is so much lighter than concrete or clay tiles, the install process should end up going a little faster, which might actually end up saving you money on the labor part of it. So for this homeowner, he's getting a product that is going to be better than the concrete tile that he had on there before. It's going to have lower maintenance. It's going to perform better. Plus, it still gives him that great Spanish barrel tile look that attracted him to this home in the first place. So if your old concrete or clay tile roof is showing signs of cracking or breaking or leaks, you don't have to think that you have to go back on with another concrete or clay tile. You have another option, and in my opinion, a much better option. If you want to get an idea of what a Brava roof might cost for you, you can actually watch this video right here. Or if you want to just geek out on a bunch of more videos about Brava, watch that playlist down there.